Welcome to America Now. I'm Don Brown. Now, in recent weeks, we have emphasized the need to bring courage to the public square, to speak truth without fear, and to be prepared, yes, to face criticism if necessary, but always remembering that the truth will set us free. Now, today in the studio, we have with us a great American, Mr. Larry Tomczack, who is a leader who has paved the way with bravery and truth as an author, as a minister, as a church planter, as a commentator, as a writer, and as a man who has basically done it all. I call him the Christian Renaissance man. We are looking forward to talking to him today just in a minute. And you're going to hear a lot from Larry, who is not only an incisive writer, but a powerful speaker and a powerful advocate for truth. And you're going to be blessed by him. I'm confident of that. Okay, welcome back. We are honored today to have Larry Tomczack in the studio. And let me take a moment to brag on him, because he's not going to brag on himself. He probably won't anyway. Maybe he will, but I don't think so. Larry's been in the ministry for 45 years. He's trained leaders, and he's done the Lord's work by planting dozens of churches in the U.S. and abroad. About 60, the last I read, or maybe more by now. He's the author of 10 books, including the 250,000 bestseller, 250,000 copies, Clap Your Hands, and the innovative, new, well-supplemented video or Bullseye challenge. I'm holding that up right now. We're going to ask you about that in a second, Larry.
Glad.
Can't wait to, yeah. And so he has really been a very prolific author. The Bullseye Challenge develops informed influencers in 30 days, and we're in trouble because we're not informed. Larry's weekly commentaries reach millions on Charisma News, World News Daily, Barbed Wire, The Christian Post, churchgrowth.org, and Intercessors for America. He is a speaker for professional sports teams, currently seen on major Christian TV networks. I'm going to show you a clip in a moment of him being interviewed at CBN. And he's heard weekly on Info America broadcasts. Larry Tomczack, welcome aboard.
It's an honor to be here.
It's good to be here, buddy.
Thank you.
What brings you here to Morning Star?
Well, we just concluded minutes ago an annual event. I think this is the 31st year of the annual roundtable.
Right.
Convocation Summit. It's an honor to be a part with Rick Joyner and senior leaders from around the country. We come together basically to pray together and hear what is God saying to each one of us about the hot button issues of our day, the issues that, you know, we really need to hear from God so we can help God's people. And that's what I know we want to do in the broadcast and with writings. And we've got to equip people because it's a day of deception, massive deception in this land, propaganda. And if ever we needed the truth, it's now. Well,
I appreciate what you're doing. Solomon says that without a vision, the people perish.
Yes.
We are in danger of perishing without vision. What do you say? And one of the things we've encouraged on this show is to encourage people to speak out, not to be afraid, because the criticisms are going to come. I know you've got some. We're going to ask you about your Ellen DeGeneres story here in a moment. But what do you say to believers who basically say, hey, we're not, we're just going to kind of like stay in the back of the church pew and we're not going to speak out. We're going to let whatever may comes. What do you say? How do you encourage?
Well,
what's the response to that?
Well, what I try to do is I say, now look, we're all eager to see the return of the Lord. And he gave signposts. And if you look, you'll see that the number one signpost prior to the return of the Lord is deception. It's mentioned 4 times in one of the Gospels there. So we're going to be alive, and I think we're in that period. I don't know when the Lord's returning, but I do know there will be massive deception. So how do you counter that? Well, you have to bring the truth. And as people have drifted in the marketplace, in schools, today, away from the scriptures, the sacred scripture, we have massive confusion. And it's what I think it says in Romans 1, there's a downward spiral when people, they reject the truth, and then the next thing you know, reject truth, you start having confusion, chaos, moral chaos, and that's basically where we're at in our culture today. So come on, people, we've got to get off the sidelines, know the truth, and speak it compassionately.
Let me ask you a question that might be, it might cause you to think a little bit, but I know you're a thinking man. What is if there was one central truth that we have missed as an American church and in this country, what is the one central truth that as a nation we must get to first again to rediscover?
Well, I would say this is my own offering. In the beginning, it says in Genesis, in the beginning, God. We have tragically turned from our heritage. We've tragically drifted away, and we've departed from our Judeo-Christian foundation. And as a result, look at our culture today. We've got to return and recapture that.
How do believers do that? How do believers become informed? Now, you've written this great book, Bullseye.
There you go.
And so we start with the book Bullseye. That probably would not be a bad start, right? Right.
Yeah, you know, and if I can say this, Don, and for all of you listening, sometimes people say, well, don't promote your stuff. Well, I'm not trying to promote. I'm trying to offer a resource. And what we did with Bullseye, and, you know, the cover shows, bang, the bullseye. We want to hit the mark, becoming informed influencer in today's changing culture. And so what we've addressed is, and you will see this, you can get the book on Amazon on the back, the 30 hot button issues that we face in our day: social justice, gay marriage, Islam, marijuana legalization, transgenderism, gay Christians living together, divorce, pornography, abortion, immigration. I mean, go on down the line. And what we did, and Don, I think you'll love this, is basically we felt if we could challenge, and I challenge you, if you'll take just for 30 days, that's all it is, 15 minutes, and you do 3 things. You take a video, and you'll see right on the inside here, it tells you, you just go on YouTube. There's no cost. It's immediately accessible. Bang, bang. And there it is, a 3-minute video, let's say on the subject of income inequality. And then you read in here, there's a 10-minute span. That's all. It's a brief little chapter on that subject. And then take the last 2 minutes and reflect and pray. And my challenge is basically, it says in Colossians, be wise in the way you relate to outsiders or unbelievers, making the most of every opportunity. Let your speech be gracious, seasoned with salt, so you know how you ought to answer everyone. Now, you have to say, now, do I know how to answer everyone when they start to say these kind of questions? Like, well, we were talking transgenderism. What do we say when somebody asks that? Or legalize marijuana. Well, what's wrong with it? I mean, and we have all the myths and the deception. And this was done and endorsed by leaders, Rick joined others, to help you. So your Bible study group, it could be your family. We homeschooled our 4 children. We use these kind of resources so that people are equipped and they're not tongue-tied or stuck, or I was embarrassed. They brought up this argument and I didn't know what to say. They said, well, you're like Donald Trump. You hate immigrants. No. And I'd say, like you asked me that, I'd say, no, I love immigrants. I'm for immigration. My dad came from Poland, but it's legal immigration. Well, why are you for that? Well, let me explain why. And that's what we want to do, so you'll hit the bullseye and you'll know how you can answer everyone.
I'm ready to go get a bullseye now.
Come on, let's do it.
So let me see that thing. So you can see the book. The book has a great cover on it, and we do need to hit the bullseye. But this book is interactively integrated with video, YouTube,
yes,
correct?
That's what it is, yeah.
So to understand, what Larry's done here, so Larry, on the back of the book, is very easy to see. He has 30 topics, or how many topics? So in other words, abortion. So if I want to know how to respond, be prepared with an answer, as Colossians says. When I respond, first of all, I can go to the video.
Yeah.
Or on YouTube.
That's right. Right there. That's right.
Because the basics are what we need.
Yes.
Some of the topics here are social justice, gay marriage, Islam, marijuana. I think it's just a brilliant concept.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, to have video interaction with more substance in the book once you get through the video too. Yes. So exactly.
Well, you know, it's streamlined and simplified to help the average person. That's you and me, really, because somebody says something about, well, you know, you say you're a Christian, you should love all gay people. I do love all gay people. I love all people anywhere and everywhere. Well, I mean, if you do, then you should be able to accept the LGBTQ agenda. What's wrong with being gay? Well, you know what? And that's where you want to be able to say, if you can, and not in a smart way, you're like kind of goading somebody, but you know what? There's not one verse in all the Bible, not one, that endorses and celebrates the homosexual lifestyle, practicing homosexuality. Did you know that? If you can show me it, I'd be, and you don't do that in a way to dig it. But then when people say, well, I thought, well, have you ever really looked at it from a biblical worldview? And see, we want to help you so you can, and then in a gentle way, with, you know, confidence, you're able, the righteous are bold as a lion. Yeah. And that's what we are to be. But if we're not equipped, we're not informed, somebody says, well, you're against marijuana. Do you know how to respond to that in a way that's credible? You say, well, Larry, do you convince everybody? No, there's some people, they don't. But I try to do it in a winsome way. And so even if they walk away and say, well, I don't accept that, or I don't believe the Bible, I hope I've planted some seeds to get them thinking. And maybe, or is that right? Or maybe I shouldn't be living in this relationship. I say I'm a Christian and I'm living with this guy. And, you know, and that's one of the subjects in there. And I'll tell you, with millennials, Don, many of you are aware of this. I mean, the stats are shocking. You can talk 7 out of 10, maybe, young people believe, well, living together, which the Bible calls fornication. It's not okay because we love each other, we're going to get married anyway and all that. But how do we respond? That's what we want to do.
Well, now, speaking of one of the issues being the homosexual lifestyle and so-called gay marriage, et cetera, engaged in the military, some of the issues that we've been talking about even with General Mattis, I understand that you created, well, that you were involved in an interesting national attention from our friend Ellen DeGeneres recently. Is that correct? Right? Right.
It stunned me a little while ago, and they'll see it in the opening video. When you go there, you'll see it. You'll see there's Ellen, and she calls me out on nationwide TV. How would you like to wake up and you hear, hey, Larry Tomczack? And bottom line was, I wrote a commentary, and I do that, like you know, as a cultural commentator for various news services, and I just wrote a commentary on the avalanche of propaganda that is hitting us today on this subject.
We're going to run that video right now, so that this is a video from CBN, so it will be G-rated if you got kids out there watching, and take a look at this. We'll be right back as soon as this video is run.
Christian writer is in the hot seat for a recent column on Hollywood and homosexuality. Talk show host Ellen DeGeneres and journalist Anderson Cooper have sounded off on the best-selling author's article. And now Larry Tomczack is extending invitations to both of them to keep the conversation going.
I write every week commentaries for 3 news services, and recently I wrote one on what I call the avalanche of gay propaganda in the media that's affecting our culture.
When Larry Tomczack sat down to write about Hollywood's increasing images of homosexuality in popular shows like Modern Family, Empire, and Glee, and their impact on young audiences, he had no idea what the reaction would be.
I wrote the commentary just to educate and raise awareness all over America, and it was on 3 news sites, and then I awoke one day, literally, and I found out that Ellen DeGeneres on her award-winning talk show was addressing me.
Larry, I don't even know what it means to celebrate my lesbianism.
Tomczack mentioned Ellen DeGeneres, who is married to a woman, in his editorial.
In the article, the pastor criticizes a lot of TV shows for promoting gay agendas. He says that Glee has over 5 characters.
I thought, who am I that this, you know, gifted comedian is calling me out on issues? But as I listened to what was said, I wanted to, you know, reach out through the TV and say, Ellen, wait a minute, that's not accurate, and there's more to it.
So he's now written an open letter to Ellen and recorded it in this video message.
I'm approaching you today not as an angry, mean-spirited fundamentalist, but rather in a spirit of humility as a would-be friend. In fact, I'd love to chat with you one day and have a cup of coffee. I care about Ellen. And so what I did was I gave an open letter response to her to just try to clarify and correct some things and also appeal to her, hey, let's have a conversation about this in a civil way.
That invitation is now also extended to Anderson Cooper.
I've never actually been to the secret meeting where the gays plot their agenda, though I imagine the catering is quite amazing. But thanks to someone named Larry Tomczack, my eyes have been opened.
Who answered Larry's editorial in his nightly Ridiculous report.
I care about him. I respect him. I admire him as a broadcast journalist, but we want to be accurate in what we say.
The column has drawn more attention than the Tennessee minister expected, but he's not shying away from the chance to have the conversation.
The response has been unbelievable, literally, with news sites and interviews. I mean, I was interviewed by somebody out in LA that they reached 9 million readers.
Tomczak also points to the expansion of homosexuality in school textbooks as well.
You do not want to miss next week's episode as we continue with Larry Tomczack.